English language class is a great opportunity for cultural exchange. In this video, we'll talk about culture, help you define your own, and talk about how to make the culture section of your lesson a mutual exchange. The culture tip is a small part of each confidence and connections lesson. However, it can lead to some of the most interesting and valuable exchanges between you and your students. What is culture? Is it food, clothes, beliefs? It's all of these things. According to anthropologist Christina de Rossi, culture encompasses religion, food, what we wear, how we wear it, our language, marriage, music, what we believe is right or wrong, how we sit at a table, how we greet visitors, how we behave with loved ones, and a million other things. One popular way to think about culture is as an iceberg. There are things you can see, like language, food, and clothing. Things that are just below the surface, like ideas about time, respect for elders, or the concept of beauty. And then there are things that are invisible, such as values, beliefs about family, and ideas about health. When you first meet your students, some aspects of their culture will be obvious, and some will reveal themselves over time. It's important to remain curious and remember that each individual will have beliefs and values that are unique to them. While people from specific regions generally share certain customs and beliefs, you shouldn't take this for granted. Now let's try a quick activity. Clasp your hands together in front of you. Which thumb is on top? Now switch your hands so that the opposite thumb is on top. How does it feel? It probably feels a little uncomfortable. Not quite as natural. Does that mean the second way is wrong? Of course not. It's just different. It's not what you're used to. This same idea applies to cultural differences. There's not a wrong or right way to say hello or communicate. There are just different ways. In some cases, the way our culture expresses itself may come so naturally that we start to mistake it for the right way instead of our culture's way. This is why it's so important to take a step back and identify our own culture before we move forward. Let's take a look at 3 different aspects of culture. I'll show you where 4 different people fit on a spectrum: Tony and Gracie from the United States, and Opal and Nung from Thailand. As we go through each one, think about where you are. Let's look first at the concept of time. How do you view time? Is time limited and precious, making punctuality important to you? Are you stressed and annoyed when things don't start on time or a deadline is missed? Or on the other hand, is time limitless and cyclical, so it doesn't matter if a friend shows up hours late or deadlines are missed? Things take as long as they take, and other factors take precedence. For Tony, punctuality is important. Meetings should start and end on time. Waiting for a friend for more than 5 minutes is annoying. Gracie, on the other hand, is slightly more relaxed. Running a bit late is okay. As we continue down the line, we see that Opal lands more on the side of punctuality, but is more flexible and understanding when things run late. For Nung, he's right in the middle. Time is important, but he's not tied to it. Other things are much more important. As you can see, even people from the same country can fall in different places on the spectrum. Why? Because your culture isn't just influenced by the country or region you're from. It can also be influenced by how you were raised, your life experiences, your personality, and much more. So, how might these different ideas of time play into your class? You might have students arrive late, or if tutoring, your student might not be ready right when you get to their house. It's important to understand that they're not trying to be disrespectful, and at the same time, we want to encourage students to be on time. Explain that this is an important aspect of our culture, and that being on time will help them be successful in the United States. If, after setting these expectations, students are still coming late, we recommend taking the time to find out why, instead of jumping to conclusions. You might be able to resolve it together. Now, let's look at relationships. How do you view relationships? Is independence and making it on your own important to you? Or are you willing to sacrifice for the sake of the group? Independence is really important to Gracie. She doesn't want to ask for help, whether it's financial, emotional, or at work. Opal, on the other hand, is willing to give up some of her independence if it's better for the group. In general, people in the United States value being independent. Children move out of their parents' houses when they become adults, and performance reviews are mostly based on individual performance, not the group's. This isn't always true for other cultures. The unit, the team, the group may be more important than the individual. How might this show up in your class? Some students, like Gracie, will prefer to work independently rather than in teams, while others may not see a problem with helping a friend on a test. A combination of group and individual work can help address both sides of this. Just make sure to explain why both are important. How about communication style? What's your communication style? Do you want people to say what they mean and mean what they say? Do you get frustrated when people don't come right out and ask you a question, leaving you to guess what they want? Or do you find yourself feeling offended when people ask you for a favor or say no to your face? Do you find it hard to say exactly what you mean, especially if it might be perceived as negative? Tony wants everything to be explicitly stated. He's direct about what he thinks and wants and expects you to do the same. Nung is closer to the other side of the continuum. Keeping the peace is more important to him than stating his opinion or asking directly for something. People in the United States generally value being direct, asking people to just say what they mean and to stop beating around the bush. For example, in Thailand, if you ask someone to come to your party, it's likely that everyone will say yes, even those that know they can't go. Why? They don't want to hurt your feelings or embarrass you by saying no. Instead, they just won't go. This can feel insulting unless you understand that for them, saying no to your invitation is ruder than not showing up. Again, this is just another thing to be aware of as you interact with your students. We want to talk about how to navigate these things in the US so that they can be successful and at the same time learn about their style of communicating and the values that they represent. We hope that this exercise not only helped you identify your own culture, but opened your eyes to the variety of ways time, relationships, and communication can be viewed. Like we said, there's no right or wrong. There's value and beauty in each perspective. And as an English language teacher, you get the unique opportunity to learn about another culture without ever leaving the state. The culture tip in each lesson of Confidence and Connections is a great way to start this exchange. Every lesson has a tip about culture in the United States, from what to do if you get pulled over to declining an invitation politely. In addition, most culture tips have a question for your students about their experience or the practices in their native country. This allows the culture tip to do two things. It gives students tips and hints on how to be successful in the United States, and it gives teachers a chance to learn from their students. Let's look at some examples. The culture tip from 2L tells students how to politely decline an invitation. Then it asks about the practices in their native country. You don't have to limit yourself to this question, though. We encourage you to be curious and ask more questions to find out more. Check your teacher's book for even more ideas, and please invite your students to be curious and ask questions as well. It can be really fun to compare and contrast, and you'll likely find things that you really admire about the other culture. The culture tip from Book 5R talks about the importance of extracurricular activities in the United States. Then, it not only asks about the student's native country, but about their opinion. This allows you to connect with your student and your student's culture. While the culture tip is a small part of your lesson, it can lead to some of the most interesting and valuable exchanges between you and your students. Have fun! We hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to contact us with any questions, and thank you for being a part of the Intercambio movement.